Hello everyone, Mike Rempel from Excel Bytes with today's Excel Bytes tutorial. Today we're going to take a look at two new functions in Excel, GROUPBY and PIVOTBY. Now these are only available in Microsoft 365, so if you don't have that you won't be able to access them. But before we do that, please take a minute to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you will get a notice whenever I put out a new video. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also find me at any of the social media sites you see here. So now let's check out today's topic. So here I have a table, and if I select that table, it's called Sales. And we're first going to take a look at the GROUPBY function. So if I type equals GROUPBY, here are all the arguments. So row field, values, functions, etc. And we're going to go through each one of these. So I'm going to pick my row fields. So in this case, I'm going to choose salesman, comma. My values, I'm going to choose revenue. And then for my function, you can see all the basic functions that are available here. And we'll just pick sum, close my parentheses, hit enter, and immediately Excel will display the salesman and their revenue in a quick little table. I'm going to need to format this last section here. Let's go through each of the functions that you can do with this. Now the first thing I want to show you is the fact that these are dynamic. So for example, if I want to sort these, say, by revenue. So I'm going to go into my formula. I'm going to hit comma, comma, comma till I get to the sort order. And now you just pick the column you want. So let's say I want to pick column 2 and I hit enter. It's now sorting the data by column 2. If I put a -2, hit enter, that puts it in descending order. So let's say though that Tom had an excellent sale here and instead he had 5,000 or 50,000 quantity. I hit enter. Notice he automatically jumps to the top because it is dynamic and it followed the rules of the sort order, putting him at the top of the list. If you make any changes to your data, it will automatically be reflected in the GROUPBY formula. I'm going to go ahead and put that back to the way we had it. Now let's go through some of the other arguments in this function. Now the next is field headers. When I selected my data, I did not include any field headers. So if you want to include field headers, you have to select them within your data. So for example, I have to go back here and I'm going to change this to include salesman. And in fact, I'm going to include salesman and model in my selection here. And you'll see how that works. But I also now need to change the revenue to make sure it includes the headers. I'm going to take that up to the top. And now, comma, I'm going to say yes and show, hit enter, and now I have the salesman, the model, and the revenue, and headers are now included. The next argument is totals. Do I want any totals, grand totals? I'm going to select grand and subtotals, hit enter, and now at each change in the salesman, it is now put a subtotal and then a grand total at the bottom. Next argument is sort order. We saw that before, but in this case, I'm going to sort it by model in descending order. So I'm going to put -2 or -2, hit enter, and notice model is now in reverse order, Ford, Dodge, then Chevy. Next argument is filter. So let's say I want all of the salesmen except for Jack. So I'm going to select salesman here, and I'm going to say does not equal Jack, hit enter, and now Jack has been filtered out of the sales group. So those are the arguments for group by. And you can play with them, adjust them, etc., however you want, and you'll see how it varies as you're using the group by function. The only real difference between group by and pivot by is pivot by, and we'll type equals pivot by, you have a row fields and a column fields argument. So my row fields, I'm going to choose salesman. I'm just going to select it that way. Comma, my column fields, let's pick model. And my values will be revenue. And let's say I want the average instead of the sum. I'm going to close my parentheses, hit enter, and it immediately will generate a pivot-like data range or a pivot table for you without having to go through the detailed pivot table structure that you may be very familiar with. And as we look at the pivot by functions, you'll see they're pretty much identical to what we saw with the group by functions. You have your depth, your sort order, your filter, etc. And you can do the same things that you could with the group by functions. And that's how you can do this in Excel.